Vishnupada Paramahansa Parigvajagacharya Ashtottara Satasisima A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nantakoti Vaishnavim Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Vimsika Hosi Krishna Chaitanya Govinda Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Uramayi Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Navir Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. All glories to the Assembled Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 18, text 18. Parikshit cursed by a Brahmin boy. Sutuvacha Aho Mayam Samabrataha Adya Ha Asma Vrida Anuvritya Api Loma Jata Toskulyam Adim Vinoti Shigram Mahatmanam Abhidhana Yogaha Sutavacha Hovayam Janmabhato Dyadhasma Vidana Vrityapi Viloma Jata Toskulyamadim Vidunoti Shigram Atmanam Abhidhana Yogaha Sudavacha Ahovayam Janmabhato Jahasma Vidhana Nuvrityapi Viloma Jata Toskulyamadim Vidunoti Shigram Atmanam Abhidhana Yogaha Sutavacha Ahovayam Janmabhato Jahasma Vidhana Vityapi Viloma Jata Skuyamadim vidunoti shigram Mahatmanam abhidhana yoga. Absolutely, yes. Ladies?
Yasarvivanai Vidiroti Shigram Mahatmananam Abhiyo Yoga. Hare Krishna.
Goswami said. We, Janmamritaha, promoted in birth, Adya, today, Ha, clearly, Asma, have become, Rida Anuvritya, by serving those who are advanced in knowledge, Api, although, Vilomajata, born in a mixed caste, Toskuyam, disqualification of birth, Adhim, sufferings, Vidinoti, purifies, Shigram, very soon, Mahatamana, of those who are great, Abhidhana conversation. Yogaha connection. Translation. Sri Sutta Goswami said, O God, although we are born in a mixed caste, we are still promoted in birthright simply by serving and following the great who are advanced in knowledge. Even by conversing with such great souls, one can, without delay, cleanse oneself of all disqualifications resulting from lower birth. Someone can read the report.
Sutta Goswami did not take his birth in a Brahmana family. He was born in a family of mixed caste, or an uncultured, low family. But because of higher association like Sri Shukadev Goswami and the great rishis of Naimisharanya, certainly the disqualification of inferior birth was washed off. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu followed this principle in pursuance of the Vedic usages, and by his transcendental association he elevated many low-born, or those disqualified by birth or action, to the status of devotional service and established them in the position of acharyas, or authorities. He clearly stated that any man, whatever he may be, whether a Brahmana or Shudra by birth, or a householder or mendicant in the order of society, if he is conversant with the science of Krishna, he can be accepted as acharya or guru, a spiritual master.
Sutta Goswami learned the science of Krishna from great rishis and authorities like Shukadev and Vyasadeva, and he was so qualified that even the sages of Naimisharanya eagerly wanted to hear from him the science of Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he had the double association of great souls by hearing and preaching. Transcendental science, or the science of Krishna, has to be learned from the authorities, and when one preaches the science, he becomes still more qualified. So Sutta Goswami had both the advantages, and thus undoubtedly he was completely freed from all disqualification of low birth and mental agonies. This verse definitely proves that Srila Shukadev Goswami did not refuse to teach Sutta Goswami about the transcendental science, nor did the sages of Naimisharanya refuse to hear lessons from him because of his inferior birth. This means that thousands of years ago there was no bar to learning or preaching the transcendental science because of inferior birth. The rigidity of the so-called caste system in Hindu society became prominent within only 100 years or so, when the number of Dvija Bandhus, or disqualified men, in the families of higher classes increased. Lord Sri Chaitanya revived the original Vedic system, and he elevated Thakur Haridas to the position of Namacharya, or the authority in preaching the glories of the holy name of the Lord. Although His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur was pleased to appear in a family of Mohammedans.
So last 100 years means that people who were born in Brahminical families were not qualified to act as Brahmins. They didn't have the training, or they didn't have the qualification to act as a Brahmana, but still they're taken as Brahmanas. That's the whole problem. They insisted on remaining as Brahmanas, although they had no qualifications to do so. And the qualification became relegated to simply being born in the family, or having a thread around one's neck that made one a Brahman. That's the degradation right there. The top. And then if the Brahmanas, so-called Brahmanas, are not qualified, then their Kshatriyas will also become unqualified. Because how will a Kshatriya be guided by an unqualified Brahmana? Or so-called Brahmana? You won't be able to guide him. So they will, Kshatriyas become useless. Because they won't be trained. They won't be given good advice. You have a police department, but you have no one qualified to guide them. They'll just become rogues. He'll use the police department to increase his own bank balance. He'll use the police department as his little guerrilla warfare team. Yeah, so many things. That's what we have now. If someone gets power of a country, he gets the army, the navy, all these things, then he does what he wants. He's not qualified. He's not guided by anyone qualified. Teaching system completely lost. No one knows what the truth is anymore. Everybody thinks they're the body. Sense gratification becomes the goal of everything. And everything, human civilization becomes lost and becomes animal society. It all begins from the top. This being born in a particular family supposedly qualifies one to be a Brahmin. Now no one knows what a Brahmin is. They don't know what a Brahmin, because no one refers to Bhagavad Gita. Today, you'll meet some people that say, I'm Brahmana. Do you know what the qualifications of a Brahmana are? Yes, I was born in a Brahmin family. My parents from Brahmin family. No, that's not that's not what Krishna, the Supreme Authority, has said. He says that one has to have the qualifications of a Brahmin. It's not by simply being born in a Brahmin family. Because Shudras can be born in Brahmin family. In fact, in Kali Yuga, everyone is born Shudra. Kalo Shudra Sambhava. No one can claim to be a Brahmin, even if he's born in a so-called long line of Brahmins. He's to be taken as Shudra until he becomes purified and trained. He can be known as Brahmabandhu, means the friend. Bandhu means friend. The friend or relative of a Brahmin. That's okay. But it's like someone born in a family of high court judges, so he can be considered a friend of a high court judge or a relative of the judge, but he can't be called judge. Okay, someone else read the next purport. Next paragraph, please.
The Ganges water is accepted as pure, and one can become purified after taking a bath in the waters of the Ganges. But as far as the great devotees of the Lord are concerned, they can purify a degraded soul even by being seen by the lowborn, and what to speak of association. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to purify the whole atmosphere of the polluted world by sending qualified preachers all over the world, and it remains with the Indians to take up this task scientifically and thus do the best kind of humanitarian work. The mental diseases of the present generation are more acute than bodily diseases. It is quite fit and proper to take up the preaching of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world without delay. Mahatmanam Abhidhana also means dictionary of great devotees, or a book full of the words of great devotees. Such a dictionary of the words of great devotees and those of the Lord are in the Vedas and allied literatures, specifically the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Goswami was not born in a pure Brahmin family, but still he was chosen to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, or he was allowed to hear Srimad Bhagavatam by Shukadev Goswami. He wasn't restricted that only certain people can hear. There are some religions now that still follow that one has to be born in a certain family or race to be of this religion or country or heritage, that one can't be, no one else can be qualified except by birth. So this is misconception. And the example of our junior, His Holiness Srila Haridas Thakur is a prime example, born in a Mohammedan family, considered outside the Vedic culture even, but he was honored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates as the greatest Vaishnava, the leader of all the Vaishnavas. So but we should see his qualification. He didn't think himself most qualified. For example, when he went to Jagannath Puri, he wouldn't go in the temple. He could have gone in the temple, even though he was born in a Mohammedan family, because the king who lived in Jagannath Puri, Prataparudra, he was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. So he would have arranged it at a moment. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a devotee of Lord Chaitanya. He became converted. So he could have arranged for Haridas to have gone inside the temple. Haridas didn't want to do that. He said, that's okay. I don't want to. I'm so contaminated. Advaitacharya worshipped Haridas Thakur at one Shraddha ceremony. Supposed to choose the finest person, the highest person. They still do that at events. They choose one person to be honored as the guest of honor, the top person. And he gets some kind of worship. So when he chose Haridas Thakur, it was amazing. Advaita Acharya is from a Brahmin family, most elevated, and he's choosing what seems to be a Mohammedan to be the first worshipable person. Unthinkable, but Bhattacharya knew the science, the reality. So, being elevated to the position is not just the group decides to elevate. This was attempted in recent times. Recent times means the last 100 years. That one group decided that the people who live, the street people in the streets, really low class, poor, they should be elevated. These people thought that these poor people, why should they have to live so the way they live? They're so poor. They're discriminated against. So he said, okay, let's give them a new name, like a rubber stamp. Harijan, child of God, or people of God. And he thought, so now they should be honored as top in the society. But they didn't have the qualities of top in the society. They were unclean. They didn't know cleanliness habits. They didn't know the Vedas. How could they be taken? So it was all a farce. And it had to be exposed. That anyone can be elevated to the top position, but he has to be qualified. And it's not just by stamping. A person doesn't become qualified just by a stamp. Just like the story of Jackal fell into a pot of dye, blue dye. So he came out, he was all blue. And there were all the animals in the forest. What is this? Blue. I've never seen anything like this. So I asked them, who are you? I'm God. So they all began worshiping him as God. Even the lion, tigers, God. And then one day, or nighttime, jackals, begin to howl at night. Some of you in India, you know. Oh, I forgot. Anyone know how to do it? Yeah, it's pretty surprising. They start howling, and all the other jackals howl. They can't resist. And so when he heard the other jackals howl, he started howling. He said, wait a minute, the lion and the tiger said, this is not a god, this is jackal. And they ate him, killed him, whatever they do. But he was finished. So pretending just by dress or outward symptoms to be something one is not, it'll be. Or you can put a dog on the Prabhupada gave many examples. Put a dog on the throne. You can dress him up like a king. And people come, look how he's sitting so regally. Look how he's sitting. He's looking out so soberly. He's dressed. Maybe he's become the king. And someone throws a shoe and he jumps off and bites the shoe. Because he's a dog. He didn't get changed by sitting up on the high seat or having the dress. He had a throne and everything. He didn't care about the throne. He jumped off. Get the shoe. Because that's what dogs do. So any questions?
Prabhupada was describing wonderful qualities of a devotee that even by seeing he can purify a degraded person. So if you can say something about the high qualities of a devotee, some qualities about that kind of devotees.
The pure devotee? Well, Sutta Goswami is an example. He heard from the right source submissively, heard from Shukadeva Goswami, so he was trained in Srimad Bhagavatam, the right thing. He performed the right activities. So he got a bona fide spiritual master. He learned the Srimad Bhagavatam. He passed on the Srimad Bhagavatam as he heard it, without changing anything. And he behaved according to the Srimad Bhagavatam's standard. So he's qualified. And then anyone who sees such a person becomes purified. That's stated in one of the songs of the Vaishnavas. That the Ganges purifies only after prolonged use. You can take bath in the Ganges. You get gradually purified, physically and spiritually, because it's so pure. But one who sees a pure devotee or is seen by a pure devotee can be elevated immediately to the purified state just by seeing. That doesn't mean he remains the same person. What will he do? He'll fall down at the feet of the pure devotee and say, I surrender. Like Sanatana Goswami. Took a straw between his teeth, fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I'm surrendered to you. Isn't that what they do with Prabhupada? They saw Prabhupada summon people the same day. I'm yours. I surrender. Finished. He becomes qualified. Then if he practices, then if he hears submissively and he puts it into practice and he teaches him, then he becomes also guru. That's the system. Not by birth, but by qualification. Anyone has the right to become a pure devotee. Charidaki Tarika Krishna Upadesh Amara Gyane Guru Anatare Desh. That's a statement by Lord Chaitanya. Wherever you go, whomever you meet, simply preach about Krishna and become a guru and deliver all those people. Everyone can become guru. There's no disqualification because of birth. Other question?
Is it okay to desire to become guru?
Statement by Prabhupada. Don't desire first and then don't have the deserve. You don't deserve. So deserve. Deserve means that one is, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he's Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya Upadekshanti te jnanam jnana sampadarshan. So he's Pranipat means he pays obeisances, humble, and he hears submissively and service. So that's the qualification. If one does that, he doesn't even have to desire to become a guru. He's already a guru. Just by doing that. You look at all the gurus. How were they when they were students? And how was Sutta Goswami? He was sitting there, rapt attention, hearing Shukadeva Goswami. So they're all, a good teacher has to be a good student. Well, he won't be a good teacher. So he has to have those qualifications of being a good student, good disciple, then he can become a good guru, good teacher.
So, question about preaching. Are there any minimum qualifications to preach, or when do we really?
Minimum qualifications for preaching. Preach. Different birds fly at different levels. Big eagles, other big birds, they fly high, several miles high. And little sparrows, they fly low to the ground. So preach according to which bird level you're at. Don't try to preach up here if you're flying down here, according to your realization. You can repeat what someone else has said who's more realized, but make sure you understand what he meant. And if not, then better to preach the things you know. Someone says, well, I don't know anything. I say, how long have you been Jodi? 3 months. You don't know anything? I say, no, I didn't learn anything. I haven't understood. But then you ask them, you say, okay, what are you, body or soul? I say, soul. What should you eat? Prasadam. What should you do with your tongue? Tongue, you should taste prasadam and chant Hare Krishna. So he thought he didn't know anything. He just needed to have it presented a little different way, and then he gets his confidence. We know so much after 3 months. Don't we, Bhaktas? We don't become proud, though, that we know so much. But we do know a lot. That's the thing about Prabhupada. First day, you learn you're not the body. With the Gyanis spend lifetimes. Bhavanam Janmanavante Gyanavam Yam Prajate. The Vaishnavas learn first day, I'm not this body, Aham Brahmasmi. That's their whole goal, is to realize they're Aham Brahmasmi. I'm one with the Supreme. Tattvamasi, I'll learn in one day, not this body. And they never go back. And second part of the talk was, although you're one in quality, you're not one in quantity. You're Brahman, but there's a Parambram. Okay, learn that. Parabrahman is Krishna. I'll never become God. I can never be equal with God. I'll always be servant of God. One day. How much we learn in one class? If we're awake. We can learn a lot. So if he preaches what he's learned, people will be astounded. I met my friend who had been in the movement 3 months. He preached to me and my entire life devastated in 2 hours. He was preaching. He wasn't initiated. Didn't matter. He didn't have a long beard. He used to have a long beard, but he shaved off his beard, so he didn't look like one of those. Couldn't tell what he was. Shaved head, but it didn't matter what they looked like. You don't judge by seeing; you judge by hearing. And he repeated what he had learned from his spiritual master, and had all the potency. Okay, so you have theoretical knowledge, you're not the body. So what's the practical knowledge? What would be the practical knowledge of one who realized he wasn't the body? What does he look like? No, what does he look like? Same as before? Does he behave differently now than he did before? My friend, he behaved completely differently than he did before. He'd give up intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, meat eating. Now he was chanting Hare Krishna. He wasn't interested in any of the things he was interested in before. He changed. He's living like that's what it means to realize. You live it. You realize that he's not going to go and do the things he did before. He's not going to think the way he did before. He won't eat the way he did before. So he's that's what Prabhupada did. He brought the dancing white elephants from the West to India, and everyone was gawking. I remember when we first went to India, especially the villages. They're quite simple. Everyone, not just one. I mean, the whole. You start moving, another group over here. Not just the children, the parents too. Completely gawking. They'd never seen. They didn't believe that we were for real. I remember one time I was getting my head shaved. In the early days, we used to get our head shaved by them. The barbers. It was fun. I was sitting there. It's fun for a while. Then the kids came. Young, kind of, not really young, but some. And they were taunting. They were saying things and laughing. I felt really uncomfortable, I was expecting to get a peaceful shave, and the whole group of them. I mean, it wasn't just one or two. It was a huge group of. So I didn't know what to do. I said, Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram jovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati mo mahabaranaya Krishna prema pradayate Krishnaya Krishna chaitanya namne gaurati. Whatever verses I could remember, I just started chanting one after another. Samsaradava Nalalita Loka Trinaya Karuna Gana Ganatham Praptashakalyana Gunarnavasya Vande Guru Shicha. And they became quiet. And they became awed. And they were sitting there like, and the barber said, "Ha!" He was on my side. He said, "See?" So I won them over just by chanting Sanskrit shlokas. What was my point? Huh? What was it?
You brought up the example of this because when we went to India, everybody
They couldn't believe that Westerners could change. They didn't know what Westerners were, but they didn't think they could become something to be appreciated. But when they heard and they saw, he's shaving his head like a Vaishnava. Okay, let's see what he's really. And he's chanting like a Vaishnava. And they're behaving like that. They're up early in the morning. They're chanting on. They have japa beads. They have neck beads. So then they begin to think maybe, just maybe, it's possible they could be real devotees. In the beginning, they wouldn't allow the Westerners. Many temples would not allow them to go in the temple. Still, some don't, because they think if you're born in such a family, it's due to bad karma. It means you're a sinful person because you got born in such a family that eats meat and does other things. So how can you be purified in one just by some hocus pocus, some wand chanting? Their idea was to finish this lifetime as a low class person. Then, when you gradually work yourself up to where you're born in the family of Brahman, then you can become a Brahman. One devotee in Vrindavan in the early days, he said, yes, we were speaking with one head of the temple, and he said, it's very good that you're doing this chanting, kirtan stuff, because in the next life you'll be able to take birth in a Brahmin family like us and then ring the bell. And Prabhupada said, what did you say? He said, oh, we didn't say anything. So you should have said. And it's also very nice that you're ringing the bell and doing this worship in this lifetime. Next lifetime, you can take birth in one of the devotees from the West family and become Vaishnava. He said, you should have said that. So that was the whole thing. Prabhupada turned everything upside down. Lord Chaitanya turned it all upside down. And that's the duty of the Vaishnavas, is to present things clearly, correctly, not just what the public wants to hear, but what the truth is. And the truth may not be popular. So if it's not popular, Prabhupada, what did Prabhupada preach? He said he thought when he went to America that when they heard him say what he was going to say, they would say, sir, please go back to India. We don't want those things. He was preaching exactly the opposite. They were all peace, peace, no war. Prabhupada said, you have to have war because look what you're doing. You're committing some of these sinful activities. It has to be war. And they wanted free love, free lust. He said, no, it's not love, it's lust. So that should be controlled. The eating was practically everyone. So a preacher has to preach things that are not popular and somehow or other still interest the people. Prabhupada did it. He held kirtan. They didn't like the philosophy, some of them, but some did like the philosophy. Those who were a little thoughtful and fortunate, they said, this is right on. But he didn't just do philosophy. If he just done philosophy, no one would join. He did kirtan and he did prasadam. That's it. Kirtan, prasadam, prasadam, kirtan. I don't know which one goes first, kirtan or prasadam, but they got to both be there and some philosophy. Any other questions? All right, here's a question here.
You mentioned in the lecture about the pretenders, like the example, pretenders, like you give the example of this dog which dress just like a king. He's pretending that he's a king. Yeah, so so I was thinking what can help us not to pretend like in devotional service, the mentality of to how can we give it up, that kind of mentality to be like pretenders.
Well, I say do the things that you practice what you preach. If you want others to chant Hare Krishna, you have to chant. If you want others to be clean, you have to be clean. Be an example. There's a story about Mahatma Gandhi. Prabhupada tells some mother came, their son, to Mahatma Gandhi and said, "My dear Mahatma, could you tell my son to stop eating sweets so much?" So he said, "Yes, come back in 2 weeks, I'll tell." So she took her son, came back in 2 weeks, and then Mahatma Gandhi said, "Don't eat sweets too much." So the lady said, "Why did you have to wait 2 weeks to tell him that?" I had to first practice it before I could tell someone else to do it. But even if we're not, like there are many, I know many circumstances where persons who are not able to practice themselves very strictly, but they still helped many people come to Krishna consciousness because they weren't envious. They weren't pretending. They said, when they spoke, preached, you could say, they wouldn't say preached, they'd say spoke. When they spoke to others, they would say, I'm not on that level to where I follow all these things, and I'm sorry I don't. But these people do. And I know from my own experience that chanting Hare Krishna is wonderful, and I know their principles that they follow are very good, and I know this philosophy is wonderful. I'm not able to follow because of my own weaknesses. So that's also attractive. He's admitting he can't follow strictly, but he's not begrudging those who do. He's recognizing them and appreciating them. It's envious when I can't follow that standard and I make an idea that no one can. All sannyasis are blankety blankety blank because some were not able to. I remember one of my relatives said, "Who's the man at the top getting all the money while you all go out and collect?" I said, "Why did you think that?" He said, "Well, that's the way it goes. The person at the top exploits the others." That person didn't realize that just because there's many counterfeit people who exploit, take advantage of others, doesn't mean they're all like that. Someone who's gotten some counterfeit money doesn't mean that all money is counterfeit. There's real money. There's real currency. So we almost lost hope that we're ever going to find anybody So yeah, but where do you find somebody that you can? That's quite a lot to ask. Surrender yourself, bow down, agree to follow their instructions completely. We never thought of doing that. We never met anyone like that. But when we met Prabhupada, then we saw there is something like that. It's possible. And naturally you bow down. You don't even, no one has to tell you. It's automatically. So I don't know if you want to go on. I don't mind if you don't mind the shaking. But it's up to you what the program is.
Anybody has more questions?
So are there any techniques like adding humor and making it more entertaining, adding messages?
Adding humor. Well, naturally, a pure devotee is humorous. Prabhupada didn't have to try to become humorous. He just, when he would expose the folly of something, it just became hilarious. Prabhupada's humor was so sweet, but the other side was that his humor made the reality so bitter, so pungent, so overwhelming that it hit you like a ton of bricks. So when you would laugh with Prabhupada, that was good, but you can laugh with Prabhupada. But then can you kick out Maya? Can you smash the Mayavadis? Can you point out the folly? Can you understand? Can you follow the principles? Then your laughing is very good. So yeah, his humor was bittersweet. So sweet you couldn't resist it. But then you had to understand, he expected you to understand the weightiness of it. Guru means heavy. So if he's heavy, yeah, he was so heavy. Look what he's asking us to do. He's asking us to give up all these things that we're attached to. So, but then he gives the example, like that makes everything possible. Like what's the example? Liquid beauty. Has anyone ever heard that story? Did you laugh when you heard the story? Men laugh, I know. Do women laugh too? All the men laugh. They think, yeah, that's great. But then, do you practice it? Do you understand what it means? So Prabhupada made learning so sweet, but it was heavy. Heavy to live it, heavy to practice it. Light and humorous to hear it, or even say it, but to live it. It's a lot less expected. When you laugh with Prabhupada, it means you better make sure you're understanding Prabhupada's deeper meaning. It's not just a funny story to tell and get your audience to laugh a little bit. That ha 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 is okay. Now do you understand what it means? Liquid beauty, what does it mean? What does it mean to all the people who heard that story? That means they may have to change from being the one who is coming to associate with the attractive young female for sense gratification to be the person who is teaching the other person, the female. You have to be like the female who realizes this is not the beauty that you're looking for is in these pots. So what kind of beauty is that? I'm a spirit soul. That's the real lesson that should be learned, not just a good story to laugh at. Okay? Thank you very much, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Namo Shivaya Krishna.